I have a series of videos to show you with the migrant crime that's going on in America because of Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, open borders. But first, I want to play John Legend lecturing Americans on accepting the thousands and thousands of people coming across the border. Let's check it out.
Entire city, the city of 60,000 that now has 20,000 Haitian migrants in it. Here's Legend lecturing them in the comfort of his $17 million Beverly Hills mansion, which is surrounded on all sides by wealthy white people.
Some facts about immigrants. They're ambitious, they commit less crime than native-born Americans, and they will assimilate and integrate in time. I grew up in the Christian tradition. We said to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. So, how about we adopt that ethos when we talk about immigrants moving to our communities and don't spread hateful, xenophobic, racist lies about them.
Can you imagine how John Legend would react if 20,000 Haitians were put in Beverly Hills? How fast he'd have his people on the phone with the mayor? Oh, in 5 minutes. He's getting trounced by Americans online. One person writing, why don't you house some of these illegal immigrants in your huge privileged mansion? You are part of the 1%. Come take care of these migrants, they said. Another writing, John Legend tries to minimize the suffering of the Americans in Springfield by calling it simply growing pains. And again, just imagine 20,000. It'd be just like Martha's Vineyard when one plane showed up and they just kicked them all out in like 22 hours while waving how much they loved them. We love you so much. Get the hell out.
Yeah, they got rid of those people in less than a day. All right, let's check out some crime that's spreading across the country due to this Biden, Kamala Harris open borders policy. Check it out.
But we're going to begin with a terrifying video of a woman being dragged across the street while she was being robbed. Tonight, cops are arresting several migrants for dozens of robberies all across New York City.
Eyewitness News reporter Jim Dolan with what could happen to those migrants.
From Sheepshead Bay to Lower Manhattan, police say a gang of recent migrants from Venezuela terrorized New Yorkers, robbing them violently and then hacking their phones to drain bank accounts of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Police say this is one part of one migrant gang, and there are others.
In recent months, a wave of migrant crime has washed over our city, but they are nonetheless preying on New Yorkers and making our city less safe.
Here, a thief on a moped violently steals a purse, but most importantly, a phone. The phone is then hacked to drain the person's bank accounts. This one pattern has nearly 150 victims, but is part of a larger pattern of criminal gangs police say they have discovered in the migrant community.
They're essentially ghost criminals. No criminal history, no photos, no cell phone, no social media. Sometimes we're even unclear on a name or a date of birth.
This network of thieves predominantly live in the migrant shelter system. They use social media platforms to organize and coordinate their thefts.
The increase in crimes committed by migrants has some wondering if bills signed into law under Mayor de Blasio that prevent the NYPD from cooperating with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, should be reconsidered.
That is absolutely disgusting what de Blasio did. Worst mayor in the history of New York City.
Sanctuary city policies are ridiculous. They're impeding our law enforcement, our officials. They're making those same law enforcement officials less safe, and by consequence, they're making all of us less safe.
That's a question that should be presented to the council.
The mayor recently has shown some openness to reestablishing some cooperation with ICE, but the de Blasio-era laws tie his hands. In the meantime,
it doesn't matter if a person is a migrant, asylum seeker, or if the person is a long-term New Yorker. You break the law, it would be investigated, and it would be handled by our criminal justice system.
It's not clear yet if City Council has any appetite for reversing the de Blasio-era sanctuary city laws, but an increase in violent crime committed by some of the recent migrants to New York City could at least force the discussion.
Eric Adams is right. crime is crime. Doesn't matter if you're illegal or illegal, but at the same time, it does matter because if you were not here illegally, those crimes would not be happening. That's the point. Let's keep going.
Officers made their way into Central Park Wednesday afternoon, a show of force as the department continues to try to tackle the recent uptick in crime in the park.
We're not going to tolerate crimes in one of the most iconic locations in the world. And so behind me, you see the resources that we're going to deploy over the next days, weeks, whatever it takes to keep this place safe.
Assistant Chief Jason Savino says there have been 11 robberies in the park since June 27th, and he says 8 of them are likely connected.
You'll start to see, like I described, the wolf pack.
Savino says the suspects in these crimes are in large groups, what he calls wolf packs, like this mugging on August 1st. He says they take off with things like wallets, phones, and bags.
So you could imagine the feeling. Imagine the feeling of that individual, predominantly tourists or soft targets, sitting on a bench and then ultimately being victimized by these wolf pack type robberies. It's tremendously concerning, and it's a new phenomenon not only to Central Park, but really to the area.
He says many of the suspects in these crimes live in city-run migrant shelters, and their average age is just 15. Police arrested an 11-year-old Tuesday night after he allegedly stole a phone from someone on the number 7 train.
An 11-year-old.
Assistant Chief Savino says the same kid was seen on video using credit cards stolen during a robbery in Central Park.
Although they're very young, very impressionable, they do have a big influence on this group, and that's something we haven't really readily seen. It's one of the first times I've ever seen it in my career.
No, there's more. It doesn't stop there.
Issues are coming to a head just outside Chicago, where a once deported man allegedly stabbed a teenage girl before leading police on an extensive manhunt. Nick's back with the latest on this story. I mean, Nick, how does this happen? Authorities say this is just the violent tip of the iceberg in this suspect's criminal past?
Absolutely, because they believe that he could be responsible for more crimes, and this continues to be the center and the focus of an investigation. According to investigators, 26-year-old Dimas Gabriel Yanez had been deported to Honduras back in 2018, but allegedly returned to the United States illegally, and authorities say he is responsible for the violent attack on a teenage girl. The Lake County, Indiana Sheriff's Office says Yanez stabbed 14-year-old girl while she was watching her brother's baseball game. Now, this happened about an hour outside of Chicago in Lowell, Indiana. Deputies say when the girl's mom tried to intervene, Yanez tried to stab her as well. A butcher-style knife was believed to have been used in the attack and was recovered at the scene. And the teen was treated for those injuries to her hand. Now, authorities said Yanez was spotted Sunday and believed he was in the process of cutting his hair in order to change his appearance. He was taken into custody after a chase through a nearby wooded area and a brief pursuit through a cornfield. Now, Marquis, investigators say Yanez may have been involved in criminal activity across the country since illegally returning to the United States. Now, deputies say they have contacted the Department of Homeland Security about his arrest, and charges are pending. Markey.
Just a heinous crime. We need a lot more answers there. Nick, thank you so much.
A heinous crime it is. I read the story, and a group of fathers that were there in the when it happened, chased after him, and eventually authorities got him. So great job to those men out there for going after this illegal alien. All right, this one's a pretty tragic story right here.
An arrest in connection to the murder of 4 people in Irondequoit. Their bodies found in their burning home over on Knapp Avenue. Police calling the incident a heinous attack. Now a man in custody who police say used fake documentation to get into the country and New York State. Gio Battaglia joins us now live with more on this case. Gio.
Adam, 34-year-old Julio Cesar Pimentel Soriano appeared in court this morning for a preliminary hearing. Now charged with 4 counts of second-degree murder, police say he was arrested last Saturday. Irondequoit police tell us Soriano is one of the people responsible for the deaths of the 4 people, a family, 2 adults and 2 children. Their bodies were found after first responders arrived to fight the fire on Knapp Avenue late last month. The victims were 30-year-old Frame Ubaldo, 26-year-old Marangeli Moreno Santiago, and their 2 children, 4-year-old Evangeline Ubaldo Moreno and 2-year-old Sebastian Ubaldo Moreno. Police went on to say Soriano was wanted for a 2019 murder in the Dominican Republic, where he's from. They say he illegally entered Puerto Rico, then arrived in mainland using a fake New York State ID. We asked the prosecutor on the case, Perry Duckles, about that claim.
Regardless of whether he entered illegally or not, really isn't something we're focusing on for purposes of this investigation. It doesn't really matter for what we're trying to accomplish, what we're trying to show. But certainly, as I said, the investigation still has a lot of tentacles that we're working through, and certainly that allegation is something we're going to be looking into.
Soriano is now being held in the Monroe County Jail, being held without bail, no release, as police say they search.
So Humpty Dumpty said it doesn't matter. He said it doesn't matter that he's illegal. That's irrelevant. Actually, no, sir, it is relevant. Why do people just dismiss the fact that somebody who is here? Yes, I'm not taking away from the fact that there are people in America who commit crimes and need to be prosecuted for it. I'm not dismissing that at all. I'm talking about the people who should not be here and are causing crimes on top of the crimes they already have going on in America. This was a very tragic situation here. This man here, this is the same story. This is the man who killed these 4 people, 2 innocent children. He, from what I'm reading, is that this is a horrific killing. He stabbed everybody in the neck and the chest. A 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. This is disgusting. There you go. Allegedly stabbing each victim in the neck and the chest multiple times, and then set the house on fire. Again, should not have been in the country. Let's keep going to the some more stories here. Famous situation that happened. A very wide, not famous, a story that got a lot of attention, I should say. 2 men here illegally in the country, killing a 12-year-old girl, Jocelyn Nungare, down in Houston. They were here in the country illegally, and they killed this 12-year-old girl who snuck out of her apartment. There's no excuse for this, none whatsoever. This story here made my blood boil to no end. And for somebody to have the gall to say, "Oh, well, Americans commit crimes," so why don't you tell that to the mother of this 12-year-old girl who lost her life at the hands of illegal immigration? I know somebody personally who told me when I was explaining the situation to them, and they said, "Well, Americans kill people too. Look, remember Jeffrey Dahmer?" Why don't you tell that to this mother here who lost her child? Tell that to the 37-year-old mom of 5 who lost her life at the hands of the illegal alien. It just infuriates me. Let's keep going.
Tonight, a man is behind bars and faces a felony charge in the death of a woman from Grand Rapids.
Yeah, it's after 25-year-old Ruby Garcia was found dead on US 131 over the weekend. Police say she was shot multiple times. Now we're also learning a lot about the suspect in this case. 25-year-old Brandon Ortiz Vita. News Channel 3's Autumn Pitcher joins us from Grand Rapids. And Autumn, police telling you that the suspect wasn't supposed to be in the U.S.
Yes, that's right. Brandon was a Mexican citizen who was in the United States illegally. That's according to federal agencies. Now, he was removed by an immigration judge back in 2020, and it is currently unknown how or when he got back into the country. Now, Ortiz Vite was found and arrested Sunday in Allegan County. Michigan State Police say he turned himself in. Now, police say Garcia was shot while riding in the car with Ortiz Vite. Her body found late Friday night, just before midnight on US 131 near Leonard Street. Ortiz Vite was charged today with felony murder, open murder, carjacking, carrying a concealed weapon, and felony firearm. Police say the two had a romantic relationship and domestic violence played a role. On Sunday, he was booked in the Kent County Jail on outstanding warrants from 2020. Police are not new to Ortiz Vite, as he has had several run-ins since 2017, including drunk driving and illegal entry into a residence. Now, Kent County Prosecutor Chris Becker says it's hard to get people to help police when someone is illegally in the U.S.
There is that circle of violence and control, and one of the things this control is, okay, now you've got this immigration status and what pressure that puts on the victims. in terms of not cooperating with police, not helping out law enforcement and stuff like that. So it's an entirely different dynamic that we do see in Kent County. This is, so we've got 2 cases now where it resulted in homicides.
The judge denied Brandon bond today. Now he is currently lodged in the Kent County Jail awaiting further action. Now we do know that Garcia was one of 5 children and her family is just heartbroken over this.
This makes me so upset. See, we're going here. A man who shot a police officer was in the U.S. illegally.
Is recovering tonight after being shot multiple times while responding to a family violence call on the north side. The News 4 I-Team's Mariah Medina, has been looking into this all day. She joins us now with the shocking details of the suspect.
The man who fired a rifle at a San Antonio police officer early this morning was in the country illegally. Federal and local law enforcement sources tell me that man hasn't been identified officially by the medical examiner, but the independent sources shared his name and this photo with us. This is 25-year-old Jorge Chacon Gutierrez, the man law enforcement sources say shot and critically injured an officer responding to an assault call around 3 this morning. Records reviewed by the I-Team show Chacon Gutierrez was apprehended by border authorities in Eagle Pass in November of 2023 for being unlawfully present in the United States and was given a notice to appear at a later date before he was released from federal custody without any conditions of bond or release. We went by the apartment off of Patricia Drive where police say this all unfolded and found numerous bullet holes in the glass of a second-story window. Police say Chacon Gutierrez was laying in bed with a rifle, and when officers went to the apartment where the family violence assault occurred, he opened fire on them. Officers returned fire while retreating, and the department's SWAT unit and tactical resources were deployed to get Chacon Gutierrez to surrender. But around 8 a.m., officers went in and discovered he was deceased, though too early to determine if by the officer's gunfire or his own, police say. Neighbors recounted the massive law enforcement presence, including Manuel Perez, who says he lives across the hall from the gunman. Perez says he saw police show up, and when shots rang out, he saw officers pulling the officer hit by Chacon Gutierrez's rifle rounds to safety. He says it was an evening from hell as law enforcement deployed all sorts of resources and used a loudspeaker to call him out of the apartment for several hours before they finally entered and found him deceased. Perez says he has never had any problems with the neighbor. It's unclear to whom the rifle belonged and what screening was done before Chacon Gutierrez was released from custody on immigration charges, but we will continue to ask those questions.
It's absolutely ridiculous. And there's more stories here on the side I can pull up. Let's see. What do I choose from here? Let's go to Florida.
Cute. It doesn't fit you. Just think of all your accomplishments. Like the time you almost...
Authorities in Florida sounding the alarm this morning, reporting a rise in serious crimes being committed by migrants in the U.S. illegally. These 3 suspects arrested for separate violent crimes in just the past month. News Nation's Jorge Ventura joins us live. Jorge, some say this is highlighting problems with current border policies.
That's right, Nick, and especially highlighting just the poor vetting process of immigrants before being released into the U.S., also the massive backlog of immigration cases. And as you mentioned before, Nick, authorities in Palm Beach, Florida, reporting at least 3 serious crimes committed by illegal immigrants in 1 month, including this man. This is Herbert Armando Guerrero from Honduras. He was arrested and charged Friday for reporting sexually abusing a minor, along with a slew of other violent charges. Authorities revealing that Guerrero was ordered out of the U.S. in 2017, but was never deported. Palm Beach County Sheriff's also arresting this mom, Josefina Cardona, earlier this month for allegedly trying to hire a hitman to murder 2 witnesses in her son's criminal case. Authorities say that she is in the country illegally and may be deported after her case is over. Authorities also arresting this man in Palm Beach County. This is Marvin Perez Lopez from Guatemala, arrested less than 6 months after crossing into the U.S. illegally. Officials say that Lopez came in January, was released by federal officials with a future court date in 2027 and made his all the way to Florida. Local officials saying that he was arrested on May 4th for allegedly kidnapping a child and sexual assault. Florida-based immigration lawyer
Despicable
Rolando Vasquez says that the state is receiving thousands of illegal immigrants who are being properly vetted before being released into the U.S., but also don't have court dates for years to come, just like Lopez.
And now the courts are congested until 2027, 2028, some even further. And that's a major problem that we're seeing, is that our system itself is collapsing. It's just too many cases. I don't think any country is equipped to take this many immigrants in such a short period of time.
Nope.
Now, News Nation has reached out to ICE to ask why Herbert Guerrero wasn't deported, despite receiving deportation orders 7 years ago. We have yet to hear back from ICE at the time of this report, Nick.
Thanks for watching,
Look, somebody
everybody.
will.
Go to joinnn.com.
Somebody in the comments, well, 2017, that was when Trump was in office. Okay, look. Yeah, there may be people from Obama and Bush that got here illegally and stay in the country. That is true. But Clinton was much better on the border. Bush was better on the border. Obama was better on the border. Trump was dang sure better on the border than Biden and Kamala. If you look at the numbers, you look at the statistics from 2017 to 2021, you look at the numbers from 2021, February, March 2021 to now, you will see there is a huge spike in border crossings, a dramatic spike. It's not even funny. Like, I'm no Obama fan, but he was 10 times better on the border than Joe Biden. We didn't have this many people crossing illegally. The problem is when you have so many people coming across the border, you don't know who's coming in. There are some people that have no ill will, that mean no harm, but then there are people who are committing crimes. There are people on the terror watch list. This is why it is a problem, because you don't know who's coming across the border. And there are people committing real crimes, serious crimes, endangering women, raping children, endangering women, killing people. This is a problem. You cannot let Kamala Harris get into power. Period. I want to see an end to this. But thank goodness we have Governor Greg Abbott stepping up to the plate, designating Tren de Agua a terrorist organization, and other governors need to follow suit. But all right, guys, I'm going to leave that right there. Like and subscribe. See you next time. Thank you. Take care.